Hey everyone, and welcome back to Thinky First Podcast.
Yeah.
The YouTube channel unlocking knowledge across the spectrum every day. I'm Ryan Lamas.
And I'm Rana Sleto.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.
Yes.
To stay tuned for more insightful deep dives.
Absolutely. Today?
We're tackling a hot button issue.
Oh, yeah.
That's been all over the news lately.
Uh-huh.
Civility and political discourse.
Right.
We're going to take a deep dive into a recent incident on CNN
Okay.
that really ignited the internet.
Oh, wow.
We're talking accusations of terrorism.
Really?
On-air apologies,
Oh, my goodness.
and even a commentator getting banned from the network.
Now, this is juicy.
So
Yeah.
this incident really highlights how volatile political discourse has become,
It really does.
especially given that it occurred just days before the presidential election.
Oh, I see.
So let's break down what happened.
Yes.
The incident took place on CNN's NewsNight with Abby Phillip. They were discussing former President Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Tensions were already running high,
I bet.
and things escalated quickly between commentator Ryan Girdusky
Okay.
and fellow panelist Mehdi Hasan.
Interesting.
It's important to note that Mehdi Hasan is a well-respected journalist and political commentator.
He is.
He was formerly with MSNBC
Right.
and now runs his own media company, Zeteo.
I see.
Right.
Yeah.
During the discussion,
Okay.
Hasan made the comment, "If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop saying."
Uh-huh.
Girdusky then responded by implying that Hasan had been called an anti-Semite more than anyone else at the table.
Wow.
And Hasan pointed out that it was primarily Girdusky himself who had made those accusations.
Oh, the irony.
Things took a sharp turn when Hasan, who's a vocal supporter of Palestinians,
Right.
mentioned that he's used to these types of accusations.
Bet.
Girdusky then retorted with,
What did he say? I hope your beeper doesn't go off. That comment.
which referenced the beepers used in bombings by Hezbollah,
Right.
was widely interpreted as a threat,
It sounds like it.
suggesting a link between Hasan and terrorism
Mm-hmm.
simply because of his stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Oh, that's awful.
Wow.
Yeah,
You can imagine the reaction.
I can only imagine.
Hasan immediately asked if Girdusky was suggesting he should be killed on live television.
Oh,
It
wow.
was a deeply disturbing comment
That really was.
and completely inappropriate for any civilized discussion,
Totally.
let alone national television.
I can't believe that happened.
CNN host Abby Phillip deserves credit for how she handled the situation.
I agree.
She immediately shut down Girdusky,
Good.
making it clear that his behavior was unacceptable.
Absolutely.
She apologized to Hasan
Right.
and emphasized that type of language wouldn't be tolerated on her show or the network.
She did a great job.
Phillip's response was swift and decisive.
It was.
She showed real leadership in that moment
Yes.
and sent a clear message
Yeah.
that civility and respect are paramount,
Right.
even when discussing heated topics.
It's a good example for everyone.
And CNN didn't stop there.
What happened next?
Girdusky was removed from the panel during the commercial break.
Wow.
And later, the network released a statement banning him outright.
You took it seriously.
They really reinforced their commitment to fostering thoughtful discussions
Good for them.
while making it clear that racism and bigotry have no place on their platform.
Exactly. There needs to be boundaries.
CNN also made a point of saying that they didn't ask Hasan to leave
Right.
and hoped he would return to the show in the future.
That's really important. They stood up for him.
That really highlights their commitment to both their journalistic standards and to protecting their contributors from such attacks.
Yeah, it's a good message to send.
This whole incident raises serious questions about the state of political discourse today.
It really does.
Where do we draw the line between passionate debate and harmful rhetoric?
That's the question, isn't it?
That's a question we all need to be asking ourselves.
It's a delicate balance,
It is.
especially in such a polarized political climate.
For sure.
And how do we ensure that we can disagree respectfully,
Yeah,
even when discussing highly contentious issues?
exactly.
This incident on CNN is a stark reminder
It is.
of how quickly things can spiral out of control when basic civility is abandoned.
That's true.
You're absolutely right.
Yep.
This incident serves as a cautionary tale,
It does.
reminding us of the importance of responsible speech. especially for those in the public eye.
Especially for them.
It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility
We do.
to hold each other accountable for the language we use and the messages we promote.
Exactly.
We can't just stand by and let this kind of rhetoric become the norm.
We can't let it become normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a call to action for each of us to be more mindful of our own words.
That's right.
And actively promote respectful dialogue, even when it's challenging.
Even when it's really hard. This incident really drives home the importance of civil discourse.
It does.
We're just a few days away from a presidential election.
I know.
A time when tensions are already running incredibly high. Exactly.
Right.
We need to be extra careful about the language we use.
Absolutely.
And how we engage in political discussions.
Very important.
There's no question that Girdusky's comment crossed a line.
He really did.
And CNN was absolutely right to take swift action.
I agree.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no excuse for that type of language.
None.
Especially when directed at someone simply for expressing their political views.
Exactly.
CNN's response sends a powerful message.
It does.
Hate speech and threats will not be tolerated.
A good message.
They've made it clear that they are committed to fostering thoughtful conversations.
Right.
Even between people who hold opposing views.
Oh, okay.
But they also made it clear that there are limits.
Right.
And those limits are about basic human decency and respect.
I agree with that.
Their response was a strong defense of the core principles of civil discourse.
It was.
And a necessary step in pushing back against the normalization of hate speech in our political landscape.
Yeah, we can't let that become normal.
This incident has sparked a lot of debate about what constitutes acceptable political discourse.
Of course it has.
Some argue that Girdusky's comment was just a joke.
A joke?
While others see it as a dangerous example of the kind of rhetoric that can lead to violence.
Well, it's more likely.
And this debate is exactly what we need to be having.
Absolutely.
We need to critically examine the language we use, especially in the context of political discourse.
For sure.
And understand the potential impact it can have.
Right.
We need to be mindful of the power of words.
Yes.
And recognize that they can be used to incite violence, spread hate, and silence dissenting voices.
That's scary.
It's not just about avoiding hate speech.
No.
It's about fostering a culture of respect and understanding.
Absolutely.
Even in the face of disagreement.
That's the hard part.
This incident is a reminder that we all have a role to play.
We do.
In shaping the tone of our political conversations.
That's true.
It's a call to action to be more thoughtful,
yes,
more empathetic,
uh-huh,
and more responsible in our interactions with one another.
It's about how we treat each other.
Especially when discussing sensitive topics.
Right. It's not simply about being nice.
Right.
It's about protecting the very foundations of democracy.
Okay.
When we can't engage in reasoned debate, when we resort to threats and intimidation, we erode the very fabric of our society.
It's a scary thought.
It is.
This incident on CNN is unfortunately just one example of a much larger trend.
Sadly, yes.
We've seen a rise in political violence and intimidation in recent years.
Yeah.
Fueled in part by inflammatory rhetoric and online hate speech.
It's a dangerous combination.
It's a dangerous cycle that needs to be broken.
We need to find a way.
Words have consequences.
They do.
And hate speech can have a very real impact on the world around us.
Absolutely. Words can hurt.
This is especially concerning given the current political climate.
I agree.
We're living in a time of heightened division and polarization. Where political differences are often seen as existential threats.
Yeah, it's like we've forgotten how to disagree.
That kind of environment creates fertile ground for inflammatory rhetoric to take root and flourish.
Exactly.
When we demonize our opponents,
right,
when we see them as enemies instead of fellow citizens, we create the conditions for violence and extremism to thrive.
It's a slippery slope.
It's like we've forgotten that we can disagree without hating each other.
We need to remember that.
We can have passionate debates about important issues.
Absolutely.
Without resorting to personal attacks and threats.
We need to be better than that.
And that's what's so disheartening about this incident on CNN.
It is disheartening.
It's a reminder that even in a supposedly civilized setting, like a cable news panel,
right,
the basic norms of respectful discourse can be easily shattered.
It's a wake-up call.
It's a wake-up call for all of us.
I hope people are listening.
We need to be more mindful of our own language and the messages we're sending.
Yeah. We need to think before we speak.
We need to hold our leaders accountable for the rhetoric they use.
Absolutely. They set the tone.
And we need to be willing to engage in difficult conversations with people who hold different views.
I know it's hard.
Without resorting to anger and hostility.
Right.
This goes beyond just being polite.
It does.
It's about safeguarding our democracy. When hate speech and violence become normalized, we all lose.
We do. We all lose.
It's about recognizing that we're all on the same team, even when we disagree.
Exactly. We're all in this together.
We're all Americans, and we all have a stake in the future of this country.
That's right.
And that future depends on our ability to have civil and productive conversations about the challenges we face.
It all comes down to communication.
It's about remembering that our words have power.
They do.
And that we have a responsibility to use that power wisely.
We need to use our words for good.
So what does this all mean for us?
Good question.
What can we do to promote more civil discourse, especially in such a polarized political climate?
Well,
it starts with individual responsibility.
It does.
We all need to be more mindful of the language we use, both online and offline.
Both.
We need to think about the impact our words might have on others.
Right.
And we need to be willing to listen to perspectives that differ from our own.
It's about being open-minded.
We also need to hold our leaders and public figures accountable for their rhetoric.
Yeah, they have a big influence.
We can't let them get away with using inflammatory language or spreading misinformation.
No, we can't let them get away with that.
We need to call them out when they cross the line.
We need to hold them to a higher standard.
And we need to support media outlets and organizations committed to fact-checking and promoting responsible journalism.
That's really important.
And it's about having those difficult conversations.
I know, they're not fun.
Even when they're uncomfortable. We need to be willing to engage with people who hold different views and do so with respect and empathy.
Exactly. It's about understanding each other.
It's not about trying to win every argument or convert everyone to our way of thinking.
No, it's not a competition.
It's about understanding where others are coming from, finding common ground, and building bridges.
It's about finding solutions together.
Ultimately, promoting civil discourse is about strengthening our democracy.
It is.
It's about ensuring that everyone feels heard and respected, and that we can work together to solve the challenges we face as a nation.
That's the goal.
It's a challenging task.
It's not easy.
But it's absolutely essential if we want to preserve our democracy and build a more just and equitable society.
We have to try.
And remember,
Yes.
this is not just about politics.
Okay.
This is about how we treat each other as human beings.
That's the most important thing.
We need to remember that behind every political opinion is a person with their own unique experiences, values, and beliefs.
Everyone has a story.
Treating each other with respect, even when we disagree, is fundamental to building a more compassionate and understanding society.
I agree. That's the kind of world I want to live in.
And that's a goal worth striving for.
It is.
This incident on CNN serves as a stark reminder of how quickly things can deteriorate when we abandon basic principles of civility and respect.
It's a cautionary tale.
But it also presents an opportunity for us to reflect on our own behavior and recommit ourselves to promoting more thoughtful and respectful dialogue.
We can learn from this.
We can choose to engage in conversations that are productive, informative, and even enjoyable, even when we're discussing complex and controversial issues.
It is possible.
It's not always easy,
but
it's essential for the health of our democracy and the well-being of our society.
I believe that.
It's also important to remember that we're all in this together.
We are.
We all have a responsibility to create a more civil and respectful public sphere.
It's a shared responsibility.
We can't just sit back and hope that someone else will fix it.
We all have to do our part.
We all need to be part of the solution.
Exactly.
We need to be willing to step outside of our echo chambers, listen to different perspectives, and engage in constructive dialogue.
It's about broadening our horizons.
It's not about agreeing with everyone.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to disagree respectfully and to work together towards common goals.
It's about finding common ground.
It's about recognizing that we're all part of the same community and that we have a shared interest in building a better future.
We're all connected.
This incident on CNN might have been a low point in our political discourse, but it can also be a turning point.
I hope so.
It can be a catalyst for us to have those difficult conversations, to challenge ourselves and each other, and to work towards creating a more civil and respectful society.
That's a great way to look at it.
We've talked a lot about the need for civility and respectful dialogue, but what does that actually look like in practice?
No.
It's not about being passive or avoiding conflict altogether.
No, conflict can be healthy.
It's about engaging in debate in a way that is both passionate and respectful.
Right. It's about finding that balance.
It's about being willing to listen to other people's perspectives, even when we disagree with them.
That's key.
It's about acknowledging the validity of other people's experiences and emotions, even if we don't share them.
It's about empathy.
It's about being willing to admit when we're wrong and to apologize when we've offended someone.
Sometimes that's the hardest part.
It's about focusing on the issues at hand.
Right.
Rather than resorting to personal attacks or insults.
Exactly. Stay on topic.
And it's about remembering that we're all human beings.
We are.
And that we all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect.
We all have value.
It's also important to remember that civility is not just about what we say, but also about how we say it.
That's true.
Our tone of voice, our body language, and even our facial expressions can all convey messages of respect or disrespect.
It's about nonverbal communication, too.
We need to be mindful of how we're coming across to others. And we need to be willing to adjust our communication style if we're not being perceived as respectful.
Sometimes we need to adjust our approach.
It's not about being fake or insincere.
No.
It's about being intentional about how we're communicating.
Exactly. It's about being mindful.
And it's about recognizing that sometimes the most respectful thing we can do is to simply listen.
Sometimes listening is the best thing we can do.
Sometimes the best way to engage in a difficult conversation is to ask questions, seek clarification, and truly try to understand where the other person is coming from.
It's about active listening.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels safe to share their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment or retaliation.
That's a safe space.
This incident on CNN highlights a crucial point, the role of the media in shaping our political discourse.
It does, absolutely. The media has a big influence.
Media outlets have a responsibility to present information fairly and accurately.
Right.
And to avoid amplifying hate speech or misinformation.
They need to be responsible.
They also have a role to play in setting the tone for political discussions.
Absolutely.
By inviting a diversity of voices to the table.
Yes.
By fact-checking claims. And by moderating conversations in a fair and impartial way, media outlets can help create a more civil and productive public square.
They can set a good example.
Of course, it's not always easy.
I know, it's a tough job.
The media landscape is increasingly fragmented, with many outlets catering to specific audiences and reinforcing existing biases.
It's a challenge.
And the pressure to generate clicks and views can sometimes lead to sensationalism and the amplification of extreme voices.
Yeah, they have to balance their responsibilities with the need to make money.
But it's all the more important for responsible media outlets to uphold journalistic ethics and to resist the temptation to prioritize profit over the public good.
They need to remember their role in society.
We as consumers of media also have a role to play.
We do.
We can choose to support outlets committed to accuracy, fairness, and civility.
We vote with our attention.
And we can hold media outlets accountable when they fall short.
We can let them know when they're not meeting our expectations.
We can contact them to express our concerns.
Yes.
Choose to get our news from more responsible sources, and even support organizations working to promote media literacy and responsible journalism.
That's a good idea.
In the end, it's about recognizing that the media plays a powerful role in shaping our understanding of the world.
It does.
And that we need to be critical consumers of information.
We need to be media literate.
And we need to demand more from the media and from ourselves when it comes to promoting civil discourse.
We can all do better.
This incident on CNN also raises questions about the nature of political debate in the age of social media.
Oh, definitely.
It's no secret that social media platforms have played a role in the rise of political polarization and the spread of misinformation.
Social media has changed the game.
The algorithms that power these platforms often prioritize engagement over accuracy, creating echo chambers where people are only exposed to information that confirms their existing beliefs.
It's a problem.
And the anonymity and lack of accountability that often characterize online interactions can make it easier for people to engage in hateful or abusive behavior.
Yeah, people feel like they can hide behind their screens.
So how do we navigate this complex landscape and promote civil discourse in the digital age?
Well,
I think it starts with being mindful of our own online behavior.
It does.
We need to be aware of the biases that we bring to our online interactions.
We all have biases.
And we need to be careful not to spread misinformation or engage in personal attacks.
It's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment.
It's also important to diversify our online networks.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't just follow people who agree with us.
No, we need to hear different perspectives.
We need to be exposed to different perspectives and engage in respectful dialogue with people who hold different views.
It's about expanding our understanding.
And we need to hold social media platforms accountable for creating environments that are conducive to civil discourse.
They have a responsibility, too.
We can demand that they take steps to combat misinformation, to reduce the spread of hate speech, and to create spaces where people can engage in respectful debate.
We can demand better.
Ultimately, promoting civil discourse online requires a collective effort.
It does.
It requires individuals to be mindful of their own behavior, for social media platforms to take responsibility for the environments they create, and for society as a whole to value and prioritize respectful dialogue.
It's a team effort.
This incident on CNN is a reminder that civil discourse is not just a nice to have.
It's not.
It's essential for a functioning democracy.
It's the foundation of a healthy society.
It's the foundation upon which we build understanding, find common ground, and work together to solve problems. Without it, we risk falling into a spiral of division, distrust, and even violence.
It's a dangerous path.
This is not just about politics.
It's not.
It's about the kind of society we want to live in.
That's what matters most.
It's about creating a world where people feel safe to express themselves, where differences are respected, and where we can work together to build a better future.
I think we all want that.
So, let's choose to be part of the solution.
Let's do it.
Let's choose to engage in respectful dialogue, to listen to different perspectives, and to work together to build a more civil and just society.
That's worth fighting for.
And remember, this is an ongoing process.
It is.
It's not something we achieve overnight.
It takes time.
But it's something we need to strive for every day.
Every single day.
It's about making a conscious effort to be more mindful of our words and actions, and to create spaces where everyone feels heard and respected.
We can all make a difference.
So let's keep talking, let's keep listening,
Yes.
and let's keep working towards a better future.
I like that.
This incident on CNN really underscores how crucial civil discourse is.
It really does.
But it also begs the question,
Yeah.
how do we actually foster it?
Right.
Especially in a world that feels so divided.
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is the way social media often amplifies extreme voices and creates echo chambers.
Right.
We need to be more intentional about seeking out diverse perspectives and engaging with people who hold different views. It is, but it's important.
And it's not just about passively reading different opinions.
No.
It's about actively listening.
Right.
Trying to understand where someone else is coming from and engaging in respectful debate.
Yeah.
Even when it's uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right.
Disagreement doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Okay.
In fact, it can be incredibly productive if we approach it with the right mindset.
Okay.
We can learn from each other, challenge our own assumptions, and come up with more creative solutions when we're willing to have those tough conversations.
So it sounds like you're saying it's less about avoiding conflict.
Right.
And more about how we handle conflict.
Exactly.
Like maybe it's okay to get fired up about something.
Yeah.
But the minute we start attacking the person, we've lost the plot.
You got it.
Right.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
If someone is constantly yelling at you, are you really going to hear what they're saying?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
You're going to be too busy getting defensive.
Right.
But if someone approaches you with respect, even if they disagree with you, you're much more likely to be open to what they have to say.
Right. So in a practical sense, how can we all get better at this?
Well,
are there any tips or tricks?
For starters, we can all try to be more mindful of our own language and tone, both online and offline. Before you hit send on that angry comment, take a deep breath and ask yourself, is this constructive? Is this kind? Is this something I would say to this person's face?
Those are good questions to ask.
Right.
I know I'm definitely guilty of firing off a tweet or two that I probably should have thought about a little more carefully.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the moment, especially online. But it's important to remember that there's a real person on the other side of the screen.
Yeah.
And our words can have a real impact.
Absolutely.
So if we want to see more civil discourse in the world, we have to be willing to model it ourselves.
Right.
We can't just complain about how everyone else is behaving.
Yeah.
We have to take responsibility for our own actions and words.
I agree with that.
And it's not just about what we say, but also about how we listen.
Right.
Are we really trying to understand the other person's perspective, or are we just waiting for our turn to talk?
Right.
Are we asking clarifying questions? Are we genuinely trying to find common ground?
So much of good communication comes down to being a good listener.
It does.
I think that's something we often forget in our rush to make our point.
It's definitely a skill that takes practice.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it.
It is.
When we feel heard and understood, it can de-escalate conflict.
Yeah.
And open the door for meaningful dialogue.
This has been such an important conversation.
It has.
I think it's something we could all benefit from revisiting on a regular basis.
I agree.
It's so easy to get discouraged by the state of the world.
It is.
And to feel like our individual actions don't make a difference.
But that's just not true.
Right.
Every time we choose to engage in civil discourse, every time we resist the urge to lash out or spread negativity, we're making a difference.
Okay.
We're contributing to a more respectful and productive dialogue.
Yeah.
And that matters.
This has been a fantastic deep dive.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure.
It really has been great having you.
It's been a great conversation.
And to all of you tuning in to Thinkiverse podcast.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the complex world of civil discourse.
Absolutely.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights. And maybe even feel inspired to approach your own conversations with a renewed sense of purpose.
I hope so.
Don't forget to hit that like button.
Yes.
And subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into fascinating topics.
Keep learning.
Unlocking knowledge across the spectrum.
That's what we do.
Every day.
Every day.
Until next time.
See you then.
Keep those minds curious.
Stay curious.
And those conversations respectful.
Be kind. Be